Hi, and welcome to part 1 of the Accessible Bible. Today we're going to be covering Aben, the ape. The ape or monkey is not a native animal in Palestine, but must have become known to the Hebrews from Egypt and Arabia. The ape's desire to imitate humans, their lively movements and dexterity must have come from the earliest times and attracted and delighted people wherever they are found, in lands where they do not belong. Among other costly goods, the nature-loving King Solomon had apes brought by his ships from Ophir, found in 1 Kings chapter 10, verse 22, 2 Chronicles chapter 9, verse 21. Apes were objects of religious worship in Egypt in the most distant antiquity and are seen depicted on Egyptian ancient monuments. Abia Abiam, the king of Judah, Rehoboam's son and successor, in 1 Kings chapter 15 verse 2, 2 Chronicles chapter 13 verse 2, reigned for 3 years from 957 BC to 955 BC, waged war with King Jeroboam of Israel, won victory, and conquered Bethel and some other cities, but was unable to fully reclaim Israel's fallen kingdom. He was for a time an idol worshipper like his father, but later became a stalwart defender of Mosaic worship in 2 Chronicles chapter 13 verse 8. Okay, so we're going to cover Abia, a son of King Jeroboam of Israel. He died young in 1 Kings chapter 14 from verse 1 to 18. And there's another Abia. This is one of Aaron's descendants, Eleazar's line, was head of the 8th of the 24 divisions, the priestly courses, which David established for the priests in 1 Chronicles chapter 24, verse 10, and this division bore his name thereafter. Although the priests of Abia's division are not named among those who returned from the Babylonian captivity, Ezra chapter 2, verse 36 to 39, Nehemiah chapter 7, verse 39 to 42, and chapter 12 to verse 1. The returning priests were still divided into 24 divisions, and to this division belonged Zacharias, father of John the Baptist, in Luke chapter 1 verse 5. As you see here, it says Abjathar, it says see Ebjathar. We'll take a look at that later. Abib says see Tidens Endeling, or the division of time. We'll check that later. Abigail, which is Nabal's, a rich sheep owner on Carmel in the tribe of Judah, the wife who through her wisdom not only saved her husband from David's wrath over his stinginess, but even so won David's favor, that after her husband's death he took her as a wife and had with her the son Chileab, in 1 Samuel chapter 25 verse 14 verse 40. 2 Samuel chapter 3 verse 3, who according to 1 Chronicles chapter 3 verse 1 was also called Daniel. Abigail, David's sister, 1 Chronicles chapter 2 verse 16, was married to Jether and had the son Amasa. 2 Samuel chapter 17 verse 25. Abihu, Aaron's second son with Elisheba, Exodus chapter 6, verse 23, accompanied his elder brother Nadab up onto Sinai with Moses. Exodus chapter 24, verse 1, later mentioned in Leviticus chapter 10, verse 1. Compare that to chapter 16, verse 12, and Numbers chapter 16, verse 46. Abilene, Luke chapter 3, verse 1, with capital city Abila. It was a region in Cilicia, 4 to 5 geographical miles north of Damascus. It must not be confused with Abila in Decapolis. Abimael, Genesis chapter 10, verse 28. 1 Chronicles chapter 1, verse 22, was one of Yoktan's descendants and forefather of an Arab people. Abimelech, in Abraham's time, king of the Philistines in Gerar. Genesis chapter 20, verses 2. Long afterward, in Isaac's time, the king in Gerar was likewise called Abimelech, Genesis 26, chapter 26, verse 1. Several have held that this, like Pharaoh in Egypt, was rather a title than a personal name. Then Abimelech, a son of the judge Gideon, was proclaimed king by the people of Shechem. But when they rebelled against him, he subdued them, took the city, and had the strong men who defended it slain. After which he besieged the nearby city of Thebez, and there was killed by a stone thrown by a woman, in Judges chapter 8, verse 22 to 24, and chapter 9. Abimelech, named as a high priest in David's time, 1 Chronicles chapter 18, verse 16. Abimelech, Psalm 34, and the title, See Achish. We'll check that later. Abinadab, one of David's 8 brothers, followed Saul in the war against the Philistines, 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 8. Abinadab, a son of Saul, fell in the battle on Mount Gilboa, 1 Samuel chapter 31, verse 2. Abiram, we'll see Korah. Abiram, the Bethelite, Heel's eldest son, 1 Kings chapter 16, verse 34. Abisag, a beautiful young woman from Shunem, who in King David's last days was chosen as his companion, mainly to care for him. 1 Kings chapter 1, verse 1 through 4. We can also see 1 Kings chapter 2, verse 17. Abisai, a son of David's sister Zeruiah, and brother to Joab and Asahel, was his uncle's, or David's, loyal follower in the persecution under Saul, and later became a distinguished field commander in 1 Samuel chapter 26, verse 7, 2 Samuel chapter 16, verse 9, chapter 18, verse 2, chapter 21, verse 17, chapter 23, verses 18. Abisua, a son of Phinehas, was high priest, 1 Chronicles chapter 6, verse 50. Abner, Saul's cousin and army commander, 1 Samuel chapter 14, verse 50, chapter 17, verse 55, chapter 26, verse 5. After Saul's death, he raised Saul's son to king in Mahanaim, 2 Samuel chapter 2, verse 8. But in the ensuing war with David, he later fell out with Ishbosheth and defected to David, 2 Samuel chapter 3, verse 6, but was killed by Joab in revenge for his brother Asahel's death by Abner's hand. 2 Samuel chapter 3, verse 27, 1 Kings chapter 2, verse 5 and 32.